Hoffman, you just finished your panel and spoke so inspirational up there on the panel, had a lot of great messages. Do you mind recapping what you said up there?
Yeah, so I just kind of tried to talk about leadership. I tried to make the distinction between leadership and management and the differences between just where management is telling somebody what to do, where leadership is really trying to influence and empower them to do the things that you want them to do, but for them to really want to. And I think the big thing with leadership versus management is leadership helps to create a strong culture within a company that will continue beyond maybe when your tenure's done.
So you mentioned some of your journey. You mentioned the word lawyer a few times. And I see some of the doctors in the room got a little scared when they heard that.
I'm like their worst nightmare.
Can you kind of share your professional journey to date?
Sure. So I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1997. I commissioned as a surface warfare officer, so I deployed on warships around the world. One out of San Diego, where we deployed to the Middle East, and then one out of Norfolk, Virginia for 18 months, where we deployed to the Mediterranean and worked with NATO. And then I was fortunate enough to be selected for a program with the Navy where they send you to law school for 3 years. So I basically had 3 years off on a funded program to go attend law school. Went to law school at the College of William & Mary. And then when I came back in, I was able to transition into becoming a judge advocate. And for my first about 3 years, I prosecuted cases under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And then after that, I served as essentially a general counsel, staff judge advocate to senior admirals.
So we know a lot of what you do based on movies and like Netflix shows.
Yes.
But what is the reality behind your day-to-day?
So most of my day-to-day work, when I was prosecuting cases, would be very similar to what a state prosecutor would do. As a general counsel, I really like to think of myself more as a therapist. So I'm really the person who is a trusted agent for the senior admiral. So when you get to that seniority in the Navy, you may not have a lot of people around you that you feel comfortable talking to. So I really became a sounding board for things that he or she wanted to talk about. I provided legal advice on a variety of issues, anything from personnel matters to, I spent 9 months deployed in the Middle East doing counter-piracy, global war on terror. So I would provide really the whole spectrum of legal advice to the senior officials.
So you started one career path and then had the opportunity to go to school during that path, and now you're doing probably something completely different from what you had imagined. Yes. So if someone is just starting their career journey, whether it's with the military or within healthcare or within corporate America, what would you kind of tell them to kind of keep that open mind, or what would be some of your inspirational messages for them?
So I think what you need to do is you should have, one thing in high school, I had a teacher who said, you really should have a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal.
It's interesting. My teacher in high school told me I should never go to med school.
Well,
so we had different teachers, and look at me now. So
and I think it's important to have those goals because they serve as a benchmark, but I think it's also important to have flexibility, to be willing to look at new opportunities and maybe see a direction that you weren't necessarily envisioning. I was just talking to the West Point graduate who was in the audience during my speech, and he had mentioned that he had never really thought about going to medical school and was actually going to go to law school. And when he got out of the military, he realized after talking to some attorneys that he didn't want to do that and had to go back to school for 2 years because his original degree was engineering before he could go on to med school. But I think it's that openness and that willingness to try new things and to not be pigeonholed into one career path.
Would you say it's a little bit harder to focus on a 5-year, 7-year plan? Because we live in this social media generation where everything is instant gratification, instant dopamine rushes. How does someone like me or a young professional stay kind of focused on the marathon, not the sprint?
Yeah, I think I see that with my own kids because they really live in these 30-second snippets nowadays, and I do think it's hard for them to stay focused and to continue down that path. But I think it's just important, and I think that's why it's important to even write them down, right? We don't write much down nowadays. Everything's done electronically, but I think to sit down and write your goals out and stick them on a wall, and I think that's really how you stay focused. And kind of what I tell my own kids is once you write those down, you need to ask yourself every morning when you wake up, what am I going to do today to drive me towards that goal, to achieve that?
Going off on a tangent here, but just out of curiosity, how do you see AI, artificial intelligence, kind of affecting what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think it's going to have an impact. It certainly has an impact in what we write. I could sit down now and ask AI to write a motion for me in a case, but I think the difference is you have to, it still requires that finesse. I don't think AI can put the human touch on what facts are important. It could certainly write a motion based on facts, but it's my ability as the attorney to really work within that world where I pick the facts that support the argument that I want to make. And I'm not sure AI can make those distinctions yet, right? I mean, similar to healthcare, where sure AI can do a lot of things diagnostically, but it still requires that doctor's touch or the surgeon's touch to say, hey, it's here, not there.
Yeah.
And those, minutia adjustments. But I think it's important we were actually talking to Dave's daughter last night, and she was talking about the various certificates you can get, and said one of the certificates you could get is an AI. And I think it's important to understand it.
Yeah. So how do you and our current president know each other?
So actually, his oldest daughter is the same age as my oldest daughter.
Okay.
So they played soccer together. So we first met him at a Chick-fil-A when he reached over my tray and started eating my French fries.
So we call him Thor.
Yes.
Like he's very fit, very strong. I would never think he eats Chick-fil-A.
Oh yeah. He eats anything left on the plate. So if you ever go to dinner with him and there's anything left over, he'll just start picking off your plate. So.
Well, that is awesome. So parting words for everyone listening right now.
It was a great opportunity. I enjoyed being here. I love the profession of medicine. I wish maybe I had started at a younger age, because as I was talking to the gentleman from West Point, I think it's very much a team sport. It's very camaraderie built into it, and I think it's an excellent profession for folks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you.